you said you believe obviously in the Big Bang, right?
We know the Big Bang happened, yeah.
Right. So, but you said that it's very possible that the universe could have always been. And I was a little confused when you said that.
It's not very possible. It's just one of the hypotheses that are out there. We don't know how it initiated.
I'm not trying to put you in the hot seat or nothing, but I'm just asking.
Just trying to make it clear. Yeah, we don't know. It's a possibility, but I'm not saying it's the probability or it's even the likely one.
Right. So why is it? Here's what I don't understand, and I talk to a lot of atheists. Is why is it a probability to believe in something so that you don't have to believe in another thing that's a probability? That, in my opinion, is a greater probability, because it wouldn't make sense that everything came from nothing, right?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways to look at this. It's correct position to say that you are most comfortable with whatever you're most comfortable with, right? I mean, that's
right.
However, if it's a topic that's not your specialty, that you're not educated on, then you should adopt the consensus of those educated. So it's just like if it's a physics question, which seems to be
Francis Collins. What about, because he's the leader of the Genome Project?
Yeah,
and a devout Christian.
I'll answer that in a second. But that's not consensus. That's one guy. That's why we go with consensus.
Hugh Ross.
That override. No, boy.
Yeah, I could give a lot of. I mean, I can give examples of a lot of intelligent
You can give
people.
lots of anecdotes. Those are not consensus. Okay. Hugh Ross is an intelligent design guy. He's a creationist guy who became intelligent design and then he goes,
right.
He's got that reasons to believe website.
Reasons to believe, yeah.
Right. And Francis Collins was the head of the Human Genome Project. I don't know what his original degree is, biology plus, I guess, but very well established scientist. And then he became a God believer. Have you read his book?
I've read highlights and bullet points, but I've only listened to podcasts and such.
I've read his book. He became a believer when he went to Yosemite once and he saw a waterfall, and it struck him as so beautiful that he thought, how can there not be a creator? So even with all his knowledge of, I don't know how much knowledge he has of physics, but he certainly has high level knowledge in biology, he overcame that intuition and became a believer on a very thin intuition.
Yeah. So you think it was just based on emotion? No. Ultimately, not.
Well, emotion, yeah, to a degree. I'm not a big fan of the word emotion because it's sort of like a simplistic thing. I've studied belief, and they're better words and they're more refined factors. Emotion gets tossed around a little too much. It's intuition, and there's some other factors, but emotion's a piece of it. I mean, because he was certainly, I think he described it as he may have even used the word moved by it or something like that, which is somewhat of an emotional response for sure. So that would have been an element of it.
Right. I think those particular elements are important in understanding. Like, when you talk about evolution in a society perspective, right? That we only love one another based on our innate ability to try to survive, right, throughout chaos or something of that sort. I think
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like that's really not a great argument. One being is like things like forgiveness, for instance.
These are not arguments. These are come from science studies of what we have found to be most likely true. So these are not philosophical arguments.
And like I said, there's many things that are most likely true. Yeah. But if you have sufficient evidence to be able to support it, and that's why you have debates and things like that. It's never like things that we talk about pseudoscience and
debates don't determine what's true or what's likely true. there's an element that can be used, right? Like you say, that's basically doing philosophy. But if you have experimental results, especially collaborated experiment or uncollaborated but corroborated from different directions, that is way higher level of confidence than
definitely. I would agree on that.
So,
I would agree.
I mean,
But you do need debates that involve those particular components in order to have.
Yeah, because I mean, there's an element of interpreting the results, right? So there's always logic and math and some interpretive debate. But it depends on what you're testing. If you're testing something that's hard science, like you put X and Y together, they make compound C or whatever. That's not a debatable thing. It happens or it doesn't.
And in the realm of science, and I think you're very interested in physics, so we're starting to learn more about quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And in the realm of quantum physics, such as like the Copenhagen theory and things of that sort, we're finding out that there's things that we can't see that exist, that we know is there, perhaps another dimension, right?
Well, we know there's some argument about do electrons really exist, and what's mass and things like that. But yeah, there are sort of some things that we have evidence for that we can't physically see. But we either have some sort of evidence for it, even if it's like indirect, by like seeing light that's released by a decomposing radioactive molecule. Or obviously air is a really good example. We can't see it, but we can measure it with other tools. So
yeah, and the thing is as we're advancing in science, we're not necessarily disproving God. In fact, what we're doing is proving that there's more things that we don't know about physics and the universe than we ever thought. And
it's a big universe. Nobody can disprove God. Nobody can prove God, and nobody can disprove God at an absolute level.
I mean, nobody really can prove anything, really. If you can't prove that if you take the medicine in your cabinet, it's not poison. Like, you can't prove, but you take it.
But, you know what I mean? We go on from there. We start with the Descartes, I think, therefore I am, and then we sit there and do nothing. So because we think we can't know anything. So we acknowledge that and say, okay, now let's go a little bit higher and have some foundational agreements between you and I. Let's just say the ones that I like to lay down are we both live. Reality exists, and we both live in the same reality. That's kind of the foundation I like to work from.
It's a good philosophy. It's good philosophy.
I mean, it's just trying to define terms well for a discussion.
I think if we go to the foundation, right, if we talked a little bit about physics, we can talk about the constants of the universe, for instance, like light, electromagnetism, gravity, and the expansion of the universe, right?
Yeah, the expansion's not constant, but yeah.
Expansion is a constant.
No, it's not. It started very rapidly in the early universe. It sort of flattened out significantly, and it has since, I don't know.
According to science, it's faster than the speed of light.
It has since started to accelerate faster. So that particular one has been variable.
It's debatable, right? I agree on that.
No, it's not debatable. Has been variable. Has changed over time.
I thought you said debatable.
Yeah, no, that one's not. We know that.
Because there is a consensus that the expansion of the universe is actually faster than the speed of light.
Correct. At the current moment, it is. It was faster than the speed of light early on. And we'd have to bring up a chart, but somewhere from like 3 to 10 billion or something, I think it was not. But now it is.
And that's why I want to talk about extraordinary claims with you a little bit.
As we measure it, let me just finish this sentence.
Yeah.
As we measure it now, it is faster than the speed of light, and it is accelerating. It is getting faster and faster.
And I wholeheartedly believe that you believe that. And I particularly don't know one way or the other if it's actually faster or not.
I adopt the opinion of the educated scientists, the physicists and cosmologists in astronomy. So that's where my belief comes from, because I'm not educated in those fields. So those are the people most qualified to make that judgment. So we as lay people are best served by adopting their position.
That's interesting you say that. Why would you actually believe that? I mean, knowing that
Same reason I go to the doctor for surgery and not a guy selling shrimp out of the back of his car.
Fair enough answer.
It's fairly
But that's not true that all doctors that are paid well and are higher up in the hierarchy are necessarily better than other doctors.
That's why we go with consensus. Because there are outliers, and Francis Collins is a good example of an outlier. And so, as I can throw one at you from going in the other direction, Jason Lyle, a young Earth creationist with a degree in astrophysics.
Right. Why aren't there arguments? Because they're very intelligent. Why aren't there arguments? Under the consensus, I wonder.
Because we have biases. It's people sometimes get into sunk cost fallacies. There are people probably in the field of string theory that have put their entire careers in string theory that really still hold to it, even though it may or may not be true, and there's no way, we still have not been able to come up with a testable way to do it, to determine if it's actually a thing or not. So there are biases. Therefore, again, that's why consensus is the best we have, because scientific method tends to the part of the purpose of the methodology is to filter out bias, and each of us most biased to our own stuff. So when you go to a higher level of consensus, meaning someone had a study that said, fusion energy was here. We don't just go, oh, okay, fusion energy is here. We tested 6 different ways from 6 different locations, and we found out we couldn't reproduce it. So Mr. Smart Guy over here either did something wrong or was
Well, I mean, do you ever heard the saying, money talks? You ever hear that saying?
Sure, that's another bias. Sure.
I mean, it could be a bias, but it also has some truth to it. I mean, people that have the most amount of money control the information ultimately.
Well,
I'm not a conspiracy.
Let's not get
Yeah, I'm not getting into that.
conspiratorial.
I'm street smart, but I kind of you understand that as you start talking to people. And you learn
do,
about
but don't dismiss. It's like don't throw out the baby with the bathwater on stuff like that, because I see that all the time. So
that's a good saying.
I understand that money is an issue. Science has, as an industry, has problems with money, but it's a bit unavoidable, because like if you have a certain paradigm of whatever we think is probably true-ish at the moment, we're probably going to put more money into that rather than some guy over there who just came up with a thing, because we think we're going to be more likely to get a positive outcome.
And do you believe there's ever an instance where somebody just has a little bit more money to be able to get his word out versus somebody who doesn't, who might be more intelligent or have a better...
I don't believe that happens more often than not, but that's a question. That's a question for a science panel, and not between you and I. So if you, I mean, to a degree, it sounds like people are different also in terms of their level of suspicion of other people. I tend to be less suspicious, and it sounds like you tend to be more suspicious, and that's fine. There are variations within every population. Yeah. So this would be an interesting question to put to a science panel. So.
Yeah, I'm trailing off a little bit. I came on here. I had a few questions about the actual topic.
Do you want to drop down and come back up?
I might have to get out. But
yeah.
If you want me to, I can. That's cool.
Well, you're clean now.
Oh, actually, I'm good now.
You're clean now.
I had to go in my kitchen. I live out here in a farmland.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now again.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, as far as if you want to talk about biblical things, I'm a Christian ultimately. I never used to be a Christian, but became a Christian over time. certain experiences, and these things that I'm bringing up aren't the reasons I believe, but it could be a reason for somebody who's analytical minded like yourself and how I used to be, of why it's more probable to believe that there's, and I say not necessarily a God, but a creator, right? We just start there.
I don't think it is, but I could see how you would, and I don't have enough to really tap you down on that. So I think it's okay.
That's fine. I just feel like, within the method of science, it's, what is observable and repeatable. And so if you start from that basis, everything that we observe is, life-giving life, things being born, those particular things, the essence of life. And ultimately, those things hold more weight. And materialism is important in talking about how things, work. But like I said, with the way science is progressing, we're actually starting to realize a lot more things about different dimensions. There's at least
such as.
Well, there's 11 different. Well, we talk about the Copenhagen theory. We can actually start there if you want, and then move forward from there.
I know of the Copenhagen interpretation. I don't understand it. The 11 dimensions comes out of string theory, but again, that's an example of something we don't know. That is something that string theory predicts because the math fits at 11 dimensions, and I can't explain it better.
The two-slit experiment is what I'm talking about, where they took two photons and they shot them into this. Two slits, the double slit experiment, and I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. Well, what they found was very profound. That every time they observed it, it was like a wave. It acted as it should, and so. Or I'm sorry, I got that completely backwards.
The other way.
It was random. Whenever they observed it, it was random, right?
And
when they didn't observe it, it was a wave, right? And then it was almost like they tried to trick it and do something else, and I'm not that intellectual to where I can explain this 100%.
It showed it was like it gave a result that indicated a wave. That light was a wave, and when they observed it or actually measured it, then it gave a result that implied it was a particle.
Yeah, basically. It's not
the observation; it's the measurement. Didn't have
it's
to be
it's the measure.
Be a conscious observer, but it's when they
that's part of it.
No, it's not. I actually had to check that out myself.
Do you have a computer on you or something? Or?
I have my phone, but
it's probably best to pull it.
It's not a conscious observer. It's a measurement, because when you make a measurement, you're throwing out a photon to interact with the thing, and when you interact with it, you change it. So it's not a conscious observer. It's not a mind. It's a measurement that is made, not by a mind.
Well, we know that's what's happening. It's a measurement being made.
Yes, but you can make a measurement
part of the experiment
without a sentient mind.
Observer which is what was causing this change.
Yeah, but again, it's not the observer. It's the fact that you're making the measurement. That's a subtlety that, if you look it up, you'll get that correction.
I have to reread it. I may have changed it.
Look up Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he's one of the people who gives the best sort of understandable explanations.
Yeah, I do want to talk about. We don't have to go there, but I do want to talk about. You said something about God being evil. Now, why do you believe that?
I don't. I was making a point about worship, because the last guy said that that the fact of worshiping meant that the God had to be perfect, and I thought he was misdefining the word in a way that didn't generate his perfectly good God, because you could just as easily worship a bad God. I was just trying to make that point about the word worship. I don't believe God exists, good or evil. So.
Right, but you believe he might exist. So you're agnostic.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
So then you're not an atheist.
I'm an agnostic atheist because I don't know. Just like you're an agnostic theist, because you don't know, but you highly believe it is true, and I highly disbelieve that it is. I believe it is almost entirely untrue.
I'm about 100%.
So again, you can't be at 0 or 100. Neither I can't be 0. You can't be 100. So you can be at 99, and I can be at 1, because we only have a 1 to 100 scale that we're working with. It's funny. Human psychology is just hilarious to me, because I always give people this 1 to 100 scale, and they always tell me 99.99999. Right? They do this type of thing.
I was gonna say that, but you know what? No, I'm pretty much.
No, you're not. So 99 is max. That's all you can be. Because the problem is if you tell me 100, or if I tell you 0, to me that means we're either being intellectually incapable of
or dishonest,
or we're dishonest, or maybe, because I have run into other people that say 100 for other reasons, which is that like they feel like they'd be like cheating God if they even verbalized the idea, the consideration that it might be 99.
Yeah. Can I? And before I go, can I give you just one? I just want to give you, and I don't want to bore you, but I want to give you a little bit of my testimony, if that's fine.
No, thanks.
No.
I mean,
okay.
You can give me an explanation. You can give me reasons to believe, but I don't want to hear
This it's pretty profound. It defies the laws of physics, but.
Then you have to tell me. And then I'm going to ask you afterwards, why do you believe it's true if it defies the laws of physics?
Well,
so I just don't want to hear.
Because that's exactly what it did.
Well, let's do it quick, just so it's not.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick.
Drag on. Go ahead.
So I was an atheist for many years. My grandfather was not. Make a long story short, he gave me a Bible. I was on my way back from partying with my brother at the strip club. And I'm driving home, and I see that Bible on the seat. I just laid it on the seat next to me. And as I'm driving, I saw the gauge in the front. It said, air gauge low or something. Yeah. And as I did, a guy pulled over. Get off. He told me to get off the road. Pulled over to the side. As I walk out of the vehicle, the car literally, like as I'm walking out, just from the front in, bam, just on fire. Right. So everything's burning. I'm watching it the officer pulls up, and I'm a little nervous because I'm buzzed. And we're watching my car burn. And he says, all right, they put the fire out. Go see what you can salvage. And I have pictures to prove this. I go into the vehicle. My golf clubs are melted. The seats are burned down to the metal on every side, all which way, except for the Bible that is literally sitting on a metal seat next to me. Mm-hmm. Okay? I pick up the Bible and I show it to the officer and I say, this is it. I mean, my golf clubs were melted. That's how hot it was. And he said, well, of course it is. And then I asked him his name, and he said, Officer Gentile. It's pretty significant. And the reason it's significant is the day before, I had literally asked God, if you're real, to reveal yourself to me in some way. Okay. That's what happened. And I have it on my TikTok. You can look at the photo.
Works for you.
But anyway, I mean, that's not going to make or break your decision-making process.
No, it doesn't. I mean, you and I have both heard, I'm sure, lots of, well, I don't know how many, but, we've heard multiple stories of that nature.
What would you do, though? Like, you're in that situation.
Personal experiences, right? That are convincing to the people. What
would you do in that situation?
I would take it as a coincidence.
I tried that.
Well, you tried it. It's not.
I tried it.
Okay, then fine. Then you weren't convinced. I mean, you were convinced by it.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's like, God is just literally, I asked him, he did what I told him to. And,
so now, what does that allow you to believe now? Does that allow you to believe that Noah's Ark was a real thing? Does that allow you to believe that donkeys talked? Does that allow you to believe that a man came back from the dead?
Yeah, when we talk about extraordinary claims like we did earlier, the expansion of the universe being faster than the speed of light, things like that, I think that when you look at the universe, there's definitely things that can happen that are extraordinary claims that could very well be true. It's not
an extraordinary claim. That's just a weird observation. It's just like we didn't know that before, and now we know it.
How is it not an
We used to
extraordinary?
think used to think we were the only, the center of the universe, and we were the whole planet, the whole solar system was everything that existed. It's just that we learned something new.
Yeah, and it's extraordinary though.
Okay, I mean, I kind of see where you're going with that, but okay, but it's not like, I don't know. To me, it's just not like person coming back from the dead kind of extraordinary, you know.
Well, I mean,
it's
if
weird.
black holes can bend time.
I understand. See, this is the fun. It's the fun and the frustrating part, because we were doing pretty well up until 1910 before Einstein. You know, things were starting to make sense, and we were figuring stuff out. And then quantum mechanics came along and just whacked all of us in the side of the brain.
That's that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It should be.
I know. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying to me it's just it is just so bizarre, because we have to cope with this really odd thing, because I think, my personal opinion, we only had to cope with one odd thing before that, which is the existence of infinities.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
yeah, I see where you're coming from.
We have this weird thing which we can't account for, and you're right though. It does make
it makes it more complicated.
It almost makes for an apologetic for those who want to believe in other weird stuff, because there's that weird thing. You know, so then others, because you hear the stuff in people using the quantum word to describe all sorts of woo things now. You know, quantum relaxation or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like the '90s stuff. Extreme. Everything was extreme in the '90s.
So we're in a weird, sort of a different world now. Humanity is so.
Yeah, we're only getting hopefully better, and hopefully there'll be flying cars soon, and you know, who knows what the future holds. Hopefully it's good, and we can actually get together and unite science and religion, you know, or faith, I should say.
Well, yeah, okay. Call me back another time. We'll have that discussion.